Good morning, Rotarians. Today I am talking to you about GPT chat and large language models. And I wanted to take you through the process that I actually went through over the last few days to prepare this conversation. So the first place I went was a place called Otter.ai. And Otter AI is a service that my company uses all of the time to actually record content. So we log in. I typically drive around when I'm driving test vehicles, and I record a conversation. So I recorded a conversation this morning, and it came out looking something like this. So at 12:42, I started just talking to my phone. This ML AI agent took this content, and then I put that content into the first thing I'm going to talk about today, which is chat.openai.com. And that is a free service that I'm going to be talking about some today that is called by other services, but it is a large language model. So I took that information and I pasted it into Chat GPT and I said, write a presentation about GPT chat intelligence, and then I pasted in the text. And what came out of it was an introductory slide that says, we're going to be talking about AI and large language models. Slide 2, what is GPT chat intelligence? Slide 3, what are the benefits? Slide 4, what are the potential concerns? Slide 5, what is the OpenAI Foundation? What are some other language models like Google's BART or BARD, B-A-R-D? Talk about the AI playground, some examples of chat intelligence, the future of large language models, and then some questions. So I'm going to take that very same text now that we have here, and I'm going to go ahead and just copy that slide. And I'm copying that slide from the chat GPT. By the way, that was version 3.5, so it was not connected to the internet. And I'm going to go ahead and put that into the BARD, which is Google's large language model. And then I'm going to say, write a Power or Google slides presentation. And then I'm going to enter that prompt. And so it's taking that same text that I just took and it's going to go make some changes to it. By the way, it really didn't do anything very interesting here, except it did suggest that I might put some images of myself and images of brain and other things, stuff that I didn't think was very interesting. And let's remind ourselves that large language models are not intelligent. They're just trying to appear intelligent. They're really asking the question, what's the next word in the pattern? So when I say my name is, usually that would be followed by a name like Bob. It would probably not be followed by my name is ice cream. Okay. Let me go to the second, or actually the third service now that I use called beautiful.ai. And I'm going to create a new presentation using that same text. And I'm going to use a classic template. By the way, this is a site that uses a large language model as well. It's a site that I use fairly often, and it is going to create what I call a better first draft than I probably could create myself, which I think is pretty important. Um, and it takes a look at the slide deck that I created, and then it does a much better job, frankly, than I would have done. And that's actually good enough to use here. So I would probably take those slides and I would actually start to show them if I was going to do that in a customer presentation. Again, this is a service I pay sort of 20 bucks a month for. Most of these things do. Uh, what are the concerns? Misuse, plagiarism. What do we know about large language models? By the way, this is a very cool um, conversation, and something we could spend more time on is the history of language models. So Alan Turing uh, built talked about computing and intelligence in 1949, and so the AI playground. What is that about? The future of large language models. Not sure what that means. And a word cloud. Okay, that was actually pretty cool. Let's take the same text and try Tome. Tome is again a site for creating presentations. I'm going to create a new presentation, and I'm going to create a presentation about, and this is taking the same text that we saw before and doing stuff with that text that is different than what you saw before. And by the way, I think it's kind of cool. By the way, it generated these graphics independently, and we could talk a lot about how that all works. Um, I think the best version of this was the one that was here. So we'll use that to drive our conversation for the balance of the time here. So we're going to present from the current slide. It's a revolutionary step forward in AI. True. It is a tool that creates natural sounding conversations, but because the computer is trying to be pleasing, they're not always accurate. So remember that large language models can be people pleasers, and those people pleasers can tell lies. So if you train the model to say that 2 plus 2 is 11, it eventually will believe 2 plus 2 is 11. Um, so this is training of computer models with natural language to have meaningful conversations with humans. So we feel like we're talking to something that is alive, that has intelligence, although it is neither alive nor it has intelligence. It's efficient. By the way, there's a lot of mundane tasks that I do every day that I don't have to do necessarily as well, or sometimes it can be my first draft. Because some of the models like Bing and Bard, so Bing from Microsoft and Bard from Google, are connected to the internet. That means that you've got a higher chance of finding correct information because some of the models are disconnected. So GPT 3.5 are disconnected from the internet as of, I think, 2021 or 2022. And there are some manual things that you can do to save money. The biggest concern would be accuracy and plagiarism. So what if I'm using someone else's work, but I didn't give them credit or pay them for their work? The other thing is often the model can be wrong. It could be racist or sexist or homophobic or all of the things that make life not as good and don't meet the four-way test, right? So the OpenAI Foundation is a group of, it's a nonprofit that was built to make strides in artificial intelligence. And it particularly made strides when it started doing a question and answer, which is what we see a lot with the chat format. I love the fact I first started playing with this with Prolog back in the 1990s. We've made a lot of improvements since then, but a lot of that has to do with the power of the computing that we have available in the cloud. AI Playground is a place where you can go play with stuff on the internet. And GPT chat is revolutionary, allows us to explore new possibilities in a more connected world. It is, but it has lived on the back of really hundreds of years of research of others. So I want to take you to a place now, which I'm a big fan of. As you know, many of you know, I'm a big fan of Microsoft. I spent some time there. I think it's a pretty cool company. And so I went to GPT and I said, tell me if this was the question that Don Solberg said, does the four-way test, does GPT meet the four-way test, right? And so it wrote a little conversation about that. Okay. And I said, can you make this simpler, right? Tell me how to green in Central Washington. I actually asked it to write a proposal with the U.S. Forest Service to have food banks and Rotary build a proposal. Thank you, Jack Carpenter. And it actually wrote a proposal based on what the basics were. I said, give me some ideas of the things behind this. So other successful programs, the Million Pollinator Garden Challenge, give me a budget, be ready to submit it. And then I said, does ChatGPT meet the four-way test? Essentially, no, because it's just a technology. It doesn't have any emotion. It doesn't have any intention. It could be used well or it could be used badly. So finally, I wanted to show you Microsoft Bing. If you go to Microsoft Bing, you go to the chat location and you say, write me a speech about why Ellensburg, Washington is the finest city on earth and use examples. It will call GPT chat and then it will write a speech about why Ellensburg is the finest place on earth, right? So it has something for everybody. Is located east of the Cascade Range. It has this. It's the seat of Kittitas County, the home of Central Washington University, founded in 1871 with John Alden Schoudy and his wife Mary Ellen, which is what Ellensburg was named after. It's a city that has great heritage and diversity. Talks about our museum. Yay. Always good to see Sadie in the museum. The Clymer Art Museum, the Ellensburg Rodeo, Jazz in the Valley. You notice it says Jazz in the Valley, even though we currently actually call it, I think we've renamed that, right, Don? So that's pretty cool. And by the way, that is work that I probably would not have done. It also then pointed me to a place I can book rooms in Ellensburg. So there's probably lots more questions. I'm going to do a few demos at this time, but I thought that would be a good starting point.